is in fact go time. Let me adjust this here. There we go. Hit that there. There we go. That ought to do it. That ought to do her. Hello. What's happening? Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Let's see what I got going on in the sound department. Whoo. Hello. Welcome, everyone. Welcome, welcome. I'm still trying to get started. Sometimes this happens. Some of you may have seen this before. Oh, now I got an echo. There we go, no echo. Last minute, very last minute, I got a text or a message from my neighbor saying that my tree was falling down in her yard on her power. She was saying her tree was falling on her power. As people come in, I will tell the story. So I said, we'll call the power company. I'm not touching that. But then I went over and looked. It's my tree. And we have a smoke situation here, which I didn't really set up a good picture of. It's very smoky here, like really bad. I can barely see across the street because of forest fires. And so the smoke had made the tree very sad, and it's basically drooping, and it's drooping so much that it was on her cable, not her power, thank God, but on her cable, and her cable had not gone out. So I was able to go over and quickly cut some branches, trim some branches, cut some branches. Whoo! It's about 100 here, and smoky. And so I ran out with my mask on. I don't know if you guys remember masks. We got masks a few years ago. I actually had them before because if you do any kind of work in your shed or whatever, you probably already had masks. So I went out with my mask on in the heat, and whoo! So I'm taking a minute. I'm just taking a minute, saying hello. Hello, Marco. Anyone else here going to learn how to fly the helicopters today? I thought this was by request. I don't know if people know, but we're doing a little lesson prior to the flight today. We are going to do a flight. There's a Concorde up there, and unfortunately, it still looks like a A320 to me. But that's better than looking like a Baron, right? Better looking like a Baron. Much better. There's a 407. There's a Schweitzer out there. Now, I actually would have used, Nova stuff is in the Schweitzer. I would have used that helicopter, except for I wanted something that everyone has in their game, and I wanted something that works for everyone. I don't know why. The Schweitzer works perfect for me. It's a great flying helicopter. It's fun, but not for everyone. Some people are having problems with it, especially, I guess, Xbox users can't use it at all. But even some PC users really can't use it. It does the weirdest thing. So anyway, that is why we're in this here, the Cabri G2. And I'm at this airport because, again, I figured everyone should have this airport. Although you certainly don't need to be here because I'm just going to talk about flying helicopters and what I do for a bit. So if you want to join and kind of practice what I'm preaching or talking about, then you definitely can come in here and practice it all as we do it. Some portion of this will be on the YouTube, and the VOD will be available. I think it's for 6 weeks. I think because of I'm not a partner, I think they take them down in 6 weeks. And I'll put it up. I'll put this portion up as a highlight. Hopefully, we're still going to do a flight. I'm really hoping to get a group flight in also, because that's why I made it 3-part lessons, so that it's not, so the whole 2.5 hour, it's not all together. It's not all crammed into one. That's a mouthful. That's where we're starting. That's where I'm going for. I'm getting my, getting some more coffee. Oh, I need another coaster. Just put it here, because I have the two. Thank you. Great stream you need. This will record to see and see in the meaning while yes. Yes, you can know it'll be there for you to watch later, both either on stream. What's this called? Either on Twitch or on YouTube. Either way you want it, I'll try and get it up there for those folks that are interested. And this a lot of people have asked, not a lot, a few people have asked. I got a lot of people here have been flying helicopters for as long as I can have or longer, and they're actual helicopter pilots. So that's the disclaimer. I may not say it again during this entire stream. Not a real helicopter pilot, but I could play one on TV. And I'm a real sim helicopter pilot. I'm a real simulated helicopter pilot, for real. So that's where we're starting. We're starting with what would be a trainer aircraft. The way that the piston helicopters and the turbine helicopters work in Asobo right now is very different. The piston helicopters can be made to be very realistic. So far, the turbine helicopters have some big holes, like you can't turn the throttle and they can't do it. The only proper startup for turbines is the fly-in side, which is, an investment. If you're really into helicopters, it's, of course, worth making that investment. Fly-in side 47 or 206, either one. All the Cohen brothers do pretty good for what they're working with. The 407, for me, is hard to fly because it's not quite where I would like it to be. But I have 25 helicopters now, and a few more besides that. 25 with Asobo flight dynamics. For some reason, it doesn't count all of the H145. So I really have like 27 helicopters with the Asobo flight dynamics. There goes the Concorde, sort of. We are on fake weather, just to make it easy. So it's better to start with 2 knots. Still says HP 145 can't take off from a helipad with a selected aircraft. That's probably because, Marco, I'm assuming that's because of things they've changed in the model. So they might have changed enough that Asobo doesn't even know it's a helicopter anymore. You never know. You just never know. All right, let's get started. Here we go. Lesson 1. This is a helicopter. I'm going to pop over here for a moment. I'm not going to read this whole thing, but right here, we have the FAA handbook for helicopters, which you can also get. I put the link in the description for this. I posted it in Microsoft forums. I posted it in our forums. I posted it in the Rotorsim pilot forums, in all the Discords. So you can get a copy of this, and I highly recommend it. Am I going to go through this whole manual? No. This is not what I'm using today. I'm using just what I do in the sim. We're going to talk about controls. We're going to do a startup just because it's fun. We're going to talk about assistance, and we're going to fly a little bit. And then we're going to do a group flight. So here we go. A helicopter is an aircraft that is lifted and propelled by one or more, there he is, there's Marco, by one or more horizontal rotors, each rotor consisting of 2 or more rotor blades. Helicopters are classified as rotorcraft or rotary wing aircraft to distinguish them from fixed wing aircraft, because the helicopter derives a source of lift from the rotor blades rotating around its mast. The word helicopter is adapted from the French hélicoptère. I know Serene's going to kill me when she hears that. Coined by Gustave de Putin de Aimcourt in 1861. So before they even existed. It is linked to the Greek words helix, helikos, spiral or turning, and patron, wing. So that is what a helicopter is. Okay, that's about as much of the manual as we're going to read, but I highly recommend for learning. Sky Command, what is up? What is happening? Oh, hey, this is perfect for you. I forget. Somebody's parked over there. I can't see. That's really funny. You're in the right place. You're in the right place. Still got time to give some shout outs. I still do. People on the YouTube will just have to understand when this goes up. You are the target audience. You are indeed. 100%. But in reality, you're always the target audience. All these streams, I just stream for Sky Command. That's it. That's the reality of it. So I'm on helipad number 1. If you're joining, please use another helipad. I'm on the first helipad. If you could just join on any of the others. I'm on the first one to the right in the airport when you look down. Did I even set this up correctly? Not really. But see, that's where I am right there. And we are at Meigs Field. So we're already doing illegal stuff because this is now a park. Of course, it was turned into a park illegally. So why not turn it back into an airport and fly it in the sim? That's as political as I get. Okay. First off, we've got the cyclic. I'm seriously starting from the beginning. First, we have the cyclic and collective and pedals. Rudder pedals, but they're actually torque pedals. So that's the collective. And that moves the rotors all around like this, all around this way. Unfortunately, for some reason, they have not animated that in most aircraft. So you can't see what I'm doing here when I move this around. It doesn't show up on the aircraft. It's not animated. Okay. There it is. But the collective is. So the collective is right next to you, and it does this. And this is animated really well. So it collectively moves the rotors, the angle of attack, basically. That's how you add and subtract power, because your power is constant in most modern helicopters. And then the anti-torque pedals are to counteract the torque. So they're right there. And these are different. This is a Fetstrom. It's a little bit different than most rotors, but you can still see the animation there. You can still see what the pedal's doing. They just changed the angle of attack of those. Same on every rotor with a helicopter design like this. There are dual rotor helicopters that are different. So there we go. So there's my pedals. I do have pedals. Here's my cyclic. Is that what it's called? There it is right there. That's an X56. And here's my collective right here. That is oh gosh, get your coffee out of the way, dude. Nobody's even telling me how silly I look. There we go. There we go. So this is a Virpil throttle I'm using as a collective. Collectives are kind of spendy, but there are units with pedal, cyclic, and collective. If you're going to train in actual helicopters, well worth getting the entire unit. Well worth it. If you're just simming, you can get by. I got by for years with a joystick that had a throttle on it. This joystick doesn't, but it does have a twist grip. You see the pedals? So you can use just the joystick with a throttle and a twist grip. And that's about $30 compared to dollars. More than 30 is what I've spent. A good deal more. So let's get into how we set this up. This was part 1. How do I set up my stick? How do I don't know if Sky Command's still here, but that was for him too. That's target. That's for Sky. How we set up our stick. So we go to the controllers. And we go to the X56. He's still here, all right. Go to the X56, and there are several things you want to do. First of all, the most basic is you want to set up your longitudinal axis. So that's the forward and back motion in a helicopter. So it's cyclic longitudinal axis, and this is specifically for helicopters. It will, if you don't do that and you use the plane controls, it will still move around. But I think you maybe have a little bit more control with this. I'm not sure. Second thing you set up is the lateral axis, cyclic lateral axis. So that's lateral, back and forth. This animation broke a few updates ago. Not my fault. Other important things to set up on your stick. I prefer to have this on my thumb. Can you see my thumb? You can. So we're going to go by input again. So I left the elevator trim alone. It doesn't bother me when I'm in a helicopter, but you could take that out. But we're talking about decrease rotor longitudinal trim. Decrease trim is my forward trim on the helicopter. I don't know why it says decrease. That's what works for me. When I push that, it trims forward. And then you have increase longitudinal trim, and that brings the stick back. And then you have, this is my right, increase rotor lateral trim. That is my trim to the right. All of these helicopters need more trim than a real one does, because in a real one, there's no centering spring. So that's the big difference. And then decrease rotor lateral trim goes to the left. Okay? I just thought I would go over this for those who are still wondering. This is like our it is. It is just like our pre-con for the collab, but with a lot less cursing. Yeah. I could bring that in because it's true. I've only got myself here to worry about. And then while we're on controls, I have done quite a few things in the on the throttle. So I also use, for my throttle, I also use something called SPAD Next, but I'm not getting into that. I'm just saying, well, what if I didn't have that? What would I need on my throttle? Well, the main thing you need on your collective. I said the wrong word. Oh, I think it's not coming through. It is not coming through. Sometimes, oh, shoot. No. Now it wants to do it. Okay, let's try it. Nope. It will not. All right, let's go to the search by name. Oh, I think I broke it. I'm just going to go back, resume, and go back in. Here we go. I'm being distracted by chat. I guess my chat on screen is not. Did I turn that off? Oh, I did turn it off. I'll turn it back on later. Okay, let's try it again. Nope, it's not going to let me do it. This is the collective axis, is all I can tell you. And it just doesn't want to show me that. It does not want to see it. What if I switch to here and switch back to here? No, there it is. Collective axis is this here. Now this can go together and I can use the two throttles. But if you want it to be a little bit heavier. But irregardless, if you have a throttle on your stick, you want it to be on collective axis. Other things, if you care about doing auto rotations and starting up and shutting down, then you will want to program this axis here. So this is set helicopter throttle axis. We're going to start it up and I'll show you what that obviously that does the throttle. Unfortunately, the reason I'm starting with this is because it doesn't do it on the turbine helicopters. And no matter how much we cry, they haven't fixed that yet. It may be 2024 from the rumor mill that I'm seeing. It may be 2024. Thank you, Marco. Thank you. Sensitivity. A very sensitive topic. Eh? I keep my sensitivity on everything in the middle. This is me. So, whoops. So right there, I don't want any dead zone at all. And I want my sensitivity in the middle because for me, that way, when I switch aircraft, which I've been known to do, then I just get used to that aircraft rather than having 299 profiles. Because I would seriously have to have probably 100 profiles, and I think the sim might get mad if I do that. So my sensitivity for both axes is right in the middle. And I've done this. This was something I got from FSX, from First Flying Helicopters. It's a bit to get used to. Sensitivity on my stick is pretty much the same. Oh, something has, what is that? My things I don't use? What is that? Oh, it's this. That's a part of my, I don't use it. That was my cameras, but then it kind of broke. That kind of broke because it's old. But same thing here. I do zero dead zone, and that's important If you give yourself a dead zone in a helicopter, it's going to be very, very difficult. It looks like I did add a little bit of sensitivity, which is actually wrong. I don't need that. I want that to be at 1. I want these to be, oops, as close to 1 or 0 as I can get. Can you move this with your mouse? No, not really. No, you can't. But that's how I do it. And again, it's worked really well for me. So when I move it, it moves. You see how little I'm moving the stick? That's what we want. Helicopters you need very little movement with your control. Very little movement equals the right thing. So what else am I skipping? That was, assists. Assists. I really appreciate you reminding me. So if anyone else wants to remind me of stuff I should be going over or that you would like to see, let me know. If it's more advanced, it's going to be another couple lessons. Starting with the basics. We're already at the point where I should be wrapping up the lesson, but we've barely begun. So if you're having trouble with helicopters, if you are truly starting out, actually, I think I will go over this once I'm started up. So someone remind me about the assistance options to help those folks who need it. Most people seem to not want to use them, and there's reasons to not use them, but they're there if you want them. If you just want to jump in and have fun and not worry too much about how you're flying, you don't care about getting better, then turn those on and it'll just be so much easier for you. So let's go now. Let me turn up. Oh, I don't know if we're going to hear this. I'm going to turn up the sounds and we'll see if we can hear it start. You can use there's a great startup checklist. I wish I knew where I got it. I really wish I knew. It must, but it says it's for the sim, so maybe it came from Microsoft. But I'm not using that. I just want you people to know this is very realistic. And there's another freeware version of the Cabri, also very realistic. There's only a couple things that don't work, like 2. But for the purposes of time, and because this isn't really a tutorial on startup, you can go to a real world startup tutorial for the Cabri with like Pilot Yellow or somebody, and you can pretty much match it. You can get really close, which is fun stuff. So we pop down here. Again, because we got these nice helicopters here, we hit the master. There we go. Hit the pump. Hit the strobe. I'll tell people what we're doing. We open this, make sure it's off. That is the clutch. Make sure clutch is off. Oh, I forgot to tell you, I also programmed a button. Oh, what was that? Crossroads, thank you for the follow, appreciate it. And whoever followed pre-flight, I appreciate that too. Somebody followed just before the flight, appreciate that. So my governor is off. Now I've programmed a button for the governor. That's another thing that's fun. So if I hit that button, that's important if you want to get more advanced, but you do need the governor off in this particular helicopter to start it. This is a gasoline helicopter. You can fill this up at the local station. There's literally videos online of people doing that. You can fill it up at your local gas station. So now that we've done that, we go up here and we turn on these 2 things. Those are your ignition switches. I meant to look up what P means before I started. You also turn on the mixture all the way forward, so you're not on shutoff anymore. I turned it on earlier. I turned everything on to move the helicopter over here. We are getting a tone now, and that's basically telling me that everything's on and nothing's right, like low oil pressure, low everything. So now I think I programmed a button. This is the tough part. For some reason, my start button, where I have programmed engine start, which works for other helicopters, but it's not working here. So I made a camera to go down here. I just programmed a camera to go here. And if you want to know how to program cameras, come to my Discord and I will give you a link. I actually learned from Two-Tone Murphy. So when I hit this, there it started. Now, if you have trouble starting, when I loaded in, it had 0 fuel in it, which was silly. So yeah, and actually this is warmed up. But if it's not warmed up, you want to bring the RPMs to 1,000. There's your RPMs right there. Bring the RPMs to 1,000. And I'm doing that here. I'm just bringing them up. There, rolling it up. There we go. It's going to come up to 1,000. Pretty easy now because I've already started. And as soon as you do that, you go ahead and hit the clutch. Let me see. I'm going to turn this all the way up. I love this sound. Okay, what that is the belt. It has a drive belt. And if you know anything about helicopters, you also might notice it's going backwards. It's going the opposite direction as American helicopters and as a lot of helicopters. That 407 rotates the other direction. So normally when you lift off, you give it some left pedal. In this one, you give it some right pedal at liftoff. You got to think of everything backwards. So now that we got that going, we bring it back up to 1,000. Which it takes a while. It's kind of slow. And we close that. We turn everything on. Lights, alternator, carburetor heat goes to auto. Turn on your GPS, which we don't really need today because if we get it too far out from the airport, we've done something wrong. Watch your tone. How you doing? What did I do? Did my tone get weird? Did I get too educational? Joey Bolo, welcome in. Joey Bolo's here, everybody. Where's his picture? His picture's back there. I don't know if you can see it. Right behind me. Always keep you in my thoughts. You just reminded me of this. I don't know why, but you just reminded me. Anyone who I do have a link for anyone interested in giving to the victims of the I guess so, of the wildfires on Maui. Largest wildfire in 100 years, largest loss of life in 100 years. And you think about 100 years ago, things were very different. So, if anyone's interested, you see us. You can see you. Oh, good. Oh, yeah, you can. Yeah, you can see it back there. Right on. There it is. So we're started. We can now go ahead and wind it all the way up. And because the governor is off, it is going to wind up and go right past that green. We want it in the green. It takes a minute, too. It's a little slow. But it's pretty nice. I like it. Ooh, look at that. United States Marines. The Marines are here to make sure I'm doing this right. So that is not a helicopter. If you listened to my description of a helicopter earlier, it's not that. That is a new kind of aircraft. Very cool. We've got all kinds of helicopters here, though. Chopper John is here. You guys are going to have to stick around for our flight. Classic 204 in the Cabri. Many people are here watching. Good. Now, you see how it's way past, it's in the yellow, so I'm going to pull it back. I think I can hit the governor now and it'll just go on, but I'm going to imagine it's a real world helicopter. You don't want to stress it out. And then I hit the governor. Now it'll stay right within the green no matter what I do. And if you want a bigger challenge and you have a collective, of course, you can leave the governor off and you can adjust as you go. So now we'll talk about the assistance. So first, I'll take off. I'm going to just bring it into a hover. This is the hardest thing in the world, even for me. I remember. I'm going to do a thing. I'm going to put up a thing because I have it. So I think it's here. Yeah, I need to get out of there. There we go. This, I don't know if this will help people or not, but it might. It might help. So these are my controls. Now, the engine controls are a little spastic. Don't worry about that because there's a governor. The engine RPM stays. The engine and rotor stays the same because our governor's on. This is my collective. I just want people to see how little you move it. These are my pedals. And you'll be able to see when I trim as well. So if I do this and I trim, see, it actually shows you where the trim is. Another important button I forgot, that one right there. let's go in and go ahead and show that. That's very important, especially on this helicopter. And if you decide to get the Schweitzer, this button here, I want to, there it is. Rotor trim reset. So that resets all 4 axes of the rotor trim. So if you're coming, if you land and you start to take off and it's tipping on its nose, let's go, Eduardo, indeed. Thank you for the follow. Welcome in. Welcome to the flights. Let's fly. Let's whirl, as we say. Cheers, man. Good to see you. 3rd cup of coffee already after being a lumberjack a little earlier. Okay, so rotor trim reset, very important. Yeah, it saves your day when you think something's wrong with the helicopter. Hitting that. So I'm going to get into a hover here, and then I'm going to show you the difference between having assist and not. So this is all the assists are off, and everything's working. On this helicopter, you got to lean towards the heavy pilot a little. And in most of them, they will lean right or left. All of the cow and sim ones, they have a left lean. This one leans towards the right. So these are all, this one is Republican, and all the cow and sims are Democratic helicopters. No. So there we go. That's your hover. And what I'm doing, look how little I'm moving stuff. Very little. That right there on the feet, that's my little spasticness. That has to do with like muscle weirdness that's happening because of my age, I hope. Doctors can't find anything, so I think it's just age related. So I'm a little spastic, but you can also, if you have springs in your pedals like I do, it's harder to keep it steady. So there you go. What am I doing? I'm just looking at the ground mostly. I'm looking straight ahead. I'll point at where I was looking here, which really helps. You want to focus. Oh, it's still not working. For some reason, my landing rate is off. You want to focus at a point ahead of you. So I was focusing on this. Now I'm already off. I was focusing right there through that. That's a really good way to keep your hover in check. You don't want to be looking inside ever. And you could look further away. You could be looking at the 407 out there in a perfect hover. There we are. So also in a hover, hovers is the most difficult thing. So you don't necessarily need to start in a hover. I didn't. I started flying around and I slowly learned the hover. There we go. So here's how to make it easier for yourself. If you just want to have fun, or maybe you're really new to it. I didn't have this option when I started. Go into the assistance and piloting, right? Piloting? And put on tail rotor assistance, then you won't need any. Well, I'll just show you. So that's that. Now, I don't have to, I'll take my feet off the pedals, basically. My feet are just sitting on the floor. And there we go. I don't need my feet at all with the tail rotor assistance on. Here comes a Concorde that looks like an A320. There we go. Appreciate everyone hanging out while I do this. Very nice. Coffee indeed, yes. And I got sidetracked. So don't get sidetracked is another thing when you're hovering. If you get sidetracked. So now you see how I stayed right in the center. I'm still right there without touching my feet. So that's very handy. And then if you want to take it even further, and if you're an actual pilot and Asobo turns this on you, you'll know that's the wrong thing. Points of interest. It's piloting, dude. We're piloting now. So you can turn on the assisted cyclic, and this this makes it harder because it makes it less responsive. So why are you raised up? That is bizarre. Why are you? That's just okay. Anyway, who cares? So assisted cyclic, what does that do? I'm not going to touch anything except the throttle. Oh, look at that. I'm just touching the throttle. And in a second, I'll take the cyclic assist off and we'll do the same thing. But so I can basically hover without touching anything. I'm just hovering here. I'm just sitting here. Also, this might be good for recording stuff if you want to cheat and say that you're an amazing helicopter pilot and you want to record some stuff. And then these don't break, by the way. So we'll get into kind of more in the coming... Oh, he's got a blue Hawaii one. I don't know if that's what they're flying or that's what... that's great. Blue Hawaii helicopters. That's fantastic. Please give if you can. There we go. I'll have to remember to put that link in my YouTube when I put this up, because people are going to need help for a long time. Billions of dollars lost, lives lost, flying it in support of Maui. Very nice, and that reminded me to throw that in there. Yeah, thank you, Marco. So now let's take that junk off, because that junk is just, it's just no good. This makes you a better pilot. Turn these off. And, you know, I taught Sky Command how to fly a helicopter. And he immediately just wanted the hardest helicopter he could fly, which I thought was awesome. So now I'll try doing the same thing. I'll show you what happens if I don't touch my pedals or my cyclic now, and I lift off. Then we get this. Then we get the whirly twirly, and it will slowly crash in. There you go. So that's what happens with assistance off. It's amazing I could put it back down. It would be worse. I think that would be worse in an actual helicopter, to be totally honest with you. What we're going to do now is just a pattern. We're just going to fly around, and I'll talk about taking off and landing. We'll taxi a little, taxi the runway. We'll take off. We'll do a pattern. We'll land. We'll go for a fun flight. Less time has passed than I thought. We'll go to Penang. Penang, and I'll tell you why when we head to Penang, and I'll take down the viewer and stuff. Oh, let me put on my... just for fun. Oh, it is on. That's weird why that's not doing anything today. Does someone have to predict? Someone predict after I take off. So, I'm going to take off. I'm going to do it right this time. We'll get a steady hover. So you do a hover check in reality, and you make sure everything's good. And then, as I was saying, your hover is about reducing the drift. Reducing the drift. All right. Now let's see if that works. If when I land, it gives me a prediction. I wonder if it's not doing anything because I haven't flown enough. And we are just going to hover taxi to that first taxiway. First taxiway up to the runway, because we don't need much, obviously. Danny Malloy is here in the V-22. Nice. Now, if I'm not mistaken, Danny Malloy is the one who's done the M3 for us. If you want your model matching to work better, play around with M3. Let's see how that works. Let's get that going. I'm trying. I don't know if it's Asobo or not, but it doesn't do as much as I thought. So now I'm going to do a little more. I'm going to turn on my head tracking. Head tracking is another huge one. I'm testing the telephone head tracking. Just if people don't have money, they want to save money. I'm using TrackIR. There's obviously VR. Lots of options, because in a helicopter, you want to be able to look around and see what's going on. We're getting a little bit of, this is great. It's getting so crowded that not great for everyone, but it's getting so crowded here that we're getting a little bit of a frame rate drop. So now my hover is good, and we go. Try and stay on the center line. You see I have my right foot in, but I'm going to get it back to the center line. And immediately in this helicopter, I've got to start trimming. Like right away, it doesn't allow anything. And I can bring the speed up. We're just basically going to go around. And the takeoff is much easier because it's more like a plane, sort of. Once you get to about 60, which we're way past, then you start gaining altitude. And I can let my feet out now. That was late. You now have gone through what's called transitional lift, and you should need very little input from your anti-torque pedals. Your anti-torque pedals don't need to do much. On some helicopters, you need a little bit all the time, but not so much on this one. So now it just flies. This is the easy part. Oh, what was that? Little glitch. We'll see. 42 is a very surly dev. 42 is very nice. I'm going to try and land on the numbers. That's what, when I learned way back in FSX, there was a group called Hover Control. That's where I learned how to fly. Let me get this trim out right, though. So you can kind of see when we come in, we have to take it all out or things go bad. Or things go bad. So it's similar to an aircraft, except you actually stay a little lower and closer to the airport in the pattern. A little lower, a little closer. Oh, the Input Viewer app is actually available on FlightSim.2. I have two of them. I have an input viewer like this, which I kind of like better, and I have an input viewer on in Flow. I have the program called Flow from Parallel 42. So let me get that for you once I touch down. Now I should be at about 60. I'm way too fast. So just keep putting the collective down. Just keep putting that down until I can get back to 60. And your approach, you're going to be better off approaching at 60 now. Soon, once you fly it for a while, you will always approach faster and you'll be all crazy like the rest of us. But there we go. So as it slows down, I got to start putting collective back in. And this works better on this helicopter. You can see the collective on the left in the input viewer. It's kind of a nice thing. Trying to get lined up so then I will turn towards the numbers. There we go. I might just be, I'm just slow enough. I need to put my pedal back in. Here we go. I've done the softest landings in my mind, and they come out at about, well, more than 42. Let's see what goes on. This is not bad. So something I forgot to mention, and that I should have mentioned right away, is every input you do in a helicopter requires input from the other controls. So now my collective, I'm back in hover. So you have to be at the hover power that you were at in the first place. And we just kind of let it come down. Once it's stopped, you can just let it come down. There you go. Just hold it where it is. Little bit of throttle off. This airport's there it is. 60. Ooh, pretty good. Pretty good. Chicago kills your frame rate. Sorry about that, Marco. It does. I wasn't sure how many people would be flying around here. And I thought maybe the airport would be okay. So we're not going to stay forever. That's about it for the lesson today. So if you want to go back, if you came late and you're wondering what we covered the what a helicopter is, how it works, how it starts, your settings for your controls, and the assist settings. Then we flew around the pattern a little bit. So next week we'll do hovering, what's it called? Pedal turns, hovering, pedal turns, flying sideways, more fun stuff. Let me see if I can get this